Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. Thanks for watching the Family Makes Waves YouTube channel. We've got another video with Bob West. Got about 2 more. This one is a really good one though. I asked Bob, hey, what would you tell someone if you were standing in the hospital room and they just found out that the baby that they just had some sort of special need? What's really cool about the answer is it could be to any parent, but it was really directed to those of you with a special needs child, but it could be to anybody. It's that good. And this is a really great episode also because he talks about his faith and how that played into everything. And I'm telling you, as young parents, man, we got to watch this video because it applies even if you don't have a special needs child. You're really going to like it. And I think it might be the best video in the series. We'll see. We've got a couple of more to finish this out, but this one's definitely a good one. Listen, if you like the content on this channel, don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. The other thing is, if you have comments on this video, or you want to tell your story, or you have some questions, or you want to see us cover a certain topic, please put it down in the comments area. I am really excited about kind of connecting with you and starting a dialogue and really talking about the things that are important to you as a viewer of this channel. So please do me that favor, and like I said, hit subscribe if you want to see more of this great content. So here's Bob West when I asked him, what would you tell someone if you were in the hospital room with them and they found out that their child had a special need?
You know, the first thing that I'd say to them is, you can do this. So many people, you know, you're going to feel, yes, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel totally incompetent and unqualified. There's going to be moments where you just throw up your hands and go, I have no idea what I'm doing here as a parent or as a supposed, you know, making medical decisions. But you can do this. One of the greatest things, sometimes people, well-intentioned people at church will say something that digs at most special needs parents, and it is, they'll say, you must be very special for God to give you this child, right? That statement actually hurts because you say, I don't want to be special. You know, you want to scream at them, I didn't ask for this. I didn't want God to give me this. That brings up a whole bunch of issues. Now, they're always well-intended, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to tell you, you know, you're doing a great job or whatever.
Sure.
The thing is, the best explanation is that we are parents, and they're parents. You guys are parents trying to do the best thing for the children that God has given you. It's not about you being special or super or having all the energy or thinking that you've got to have all the energy. You've got to pace yourself, right? Yes, there are some decisions you got to make. Yes, it's going to be overwhelming at times, but it does get better. You get into a rhythm. You know, as we got through that, and Kyle was in regular therapies, you get into a rhythm. It's your rhythm. It's not anybody else's rhythm, right? Your family will be unique in its own way of how you guys manage, but you will get to the point where you can manage. You will get to just a good pace of being able to handle all those things. And people go, wow, I don't know how you do it. And it's like, well, yeah, we didn't start a marathon today, right? You started 1 mile, then 2 miles, right? You built up to it, and you get into that rhythm. And there'll be seasons where that rhythm is happening, and you're just flying along. And then there are seasons that, you know, okay, there's some big medical things going on or something like that that you have to transition to. But you can do it. It will, you know, it will get, you have the strength to do it. It's just understanding that you don't have to do it all today.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't.
Well, so before we get into where you're at today, right, which will give people a lot of hope, I'm sure, but talk about your faith and how it helped you through that, how it helped you to figure out things. How did it play into all of this?
So, you know, it's very interesting because I didn't become a Christian until my early 20s, got married at 25. So I would say that I wasn't, you know, a longtime believer, very far along in my faith when all this was happening. However, what it really helped me do, and I tend to internalize, so there was a lot of processing going on inside of me, but it really made me deal with who is God? How does God deal with us, right? What one of the statements, everybody loves to tell you the verse that God only gives you good things. So what is this that I have in my hands? What am I holding in my family?
Yes.
And understanding it's very interesting. My idea of what God calls good and what God uses in our lives to deepen our faith in Him and an understanding of who we are in Him.
Yes.
That I don't think I also look at my son, and we'll talk about all the opportunities he's had. He would not be the person he is today. None of our kids would be without the experiences they've had. These experiences have had to make, that Kyle's had have made Kyle grow in a different way than anybody else. They've furthered his understanding of that. I always think that if I had perfect kids, I had these, 3 little doctors, who'd grown up to be doctors, and all my kids were doing just perfect, and I never had any problems, I'd be a shallow person. It is the trials in our lives that make us grow deeper with God. Now, unfortunately, some people, it makes them just abandon God. How can God, the same old question of how can there be starving children in Africa also comes through, how can there be disabled children? Right? How can God allow there to be disabled children? But our understanding of God and how the world should deepen as we start to wrestle with those questions. I don't have all the answers to those things, but I think I have dealt with them and wrestled with them more than probably somebody whose kid is just, running around throwing a football in the backyard, right? They're like, hey, my kid's I want my kid to be a sports star. Well, I wanted my kid to be a sports star, and he's not. And I had to deal with that, and I had to come to terms with that and understand that what we don't really understand in all of our children's lives is the hopes and dreams we put on those kids are not what's going to happen for any of them, right? Those are our expectations of a kid. As parents, we think, my kid's going to grow up and do X, Y, and Z. That's God has a plan for them that isn't our plan, right? And it just came a little more sooner to me to understand, to know that about my kid than maybe other parents that figure out.
Well, and what I hear you saying there too is you weren't afraid to pose that question to yourself, right? If everything God gives us is good, then what about Kyle that I'm holding here in my arms? You weren't afraid to say, hey, wait a second.
You have to lean into those. I started reading like The Problem with Pain, C.S. Lewis. Some of his The Great Divorce and other books by folks, and there are some by those who have disabilities, to try and understand what I was going through, and understand the nature of God. I've never been one to shy away from those questions, and I don't think God wants us to shy away from those questions. I think God wants us to lean in and say, hey, this hurts. This doesn't feel right. This isn't the way I interpreted God. The whole health and wellness gospel, that some of us think of, it's so wrong, but it's better than that if we really get to the point where we start to understand how God, who God is and how He deals with us and who we are within Him. I think if we lean into that, we may not get the answers. I mean, there are so many answers that I won't get until I meet Him face to face, but I've heard somebody say that at that point I won't care because I'm face to face with God, and I'll be like, forget that stuff. This is awesome.
Everything
right?
pales.
Everything pales in comparison, right?
Yeah.
So but while we're here, we need to lean into those tough parts of our life to get those answers, and I think that's the only way we grow in our faith with God.